Hello, it's Miss Carla. Anyone who's been watching over the last 2 weeks knows that yesterday we finished Love, Sugar, Magic, A Dash of Trouble, which was delightful, in my opinion. We're going to continue with a new chapter book today because I want us to keep reading from the nominees list for the 2020 Rhode Island Latino Books Month Award in grades 3 through 5. So I think I showed this to you last week. This is a list of our books. This is in this grade level. So we have read Love, Sugar, Magic, and now we're going to read Lety Out Loud by Angela Cervantes. I do need to mention that Latino Books Month is a project of Rhode Island Latino Arts, and we would like to thank the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, the Providence Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism, and the Rhode Island Foundation for their support to Rhode Island Latino Arts and for the arts community. All right, so this is our book, Lety Out Loud by Angela Cervantes, or with a Spanish accent, this would be Angela. Did you know that a lot of names look the same or sound the same in different languages, but sometimes they don't, and you can still spell them the same way and just say them in a different accent. This book is published by Scholastic, so I would like to thank Scholastic for the permission to read it out loud via our live stream. Also, I was looking at the cover of the book, and this book is not a library book. It's a regular copy, so it doesn't have a spine label or a barcode on the back. It also is not covered in a little plastic wrapper to protect it, which means that the jacket can come off. This is the jacket of the book, and it keeps the cardboard of the book safe, and it allows it to be pretty and shiny on the outside while having a sturdy inside. So when I'm reading, I think I'm going to take this off because it's kind of floppy, and I'll keep that nice and shiny. But I also wanted to show you, first of all, I think this is a beautiful pink color. But if you look closely, you can see there's a little picture of a dog, and I can feel that that's pressed into the book. So it's not drawn on there. It's actually pressed into the cardboard, which I think is a really cute little detail. Ooh, and the interior is blue, and look how it matches the pink and blue of the jacket. That's really cute. Look, and there's even that little dog on the, I think this is called the Verso page. The page that has all of the publishing information. Chapter 1, there's no pictures in this one, apparently. Chapter 1, Furry Friends Summer Camp. If Lety Munoz could adopt any animal in the world, it would be Spike, the sweet black and white terrier sitting across from her on the lawn at that very minute. Lety was outside the Furry Friends animal shelter, along with other summer campers. All of them wore shorts and teal blue Furry Friends t-shirts and sat quietly as the shelter's owner and veterinarian, Dr. Villalobos, told stories about the various dogs and cats at the shelter. Lety liked how Dr. Villalobos' voice rose high with excitement and then dropped low when a story turned serious. He had colorful tattoos on both arms and long, dark hair pulled into a braid that snaked down his back. He was like no other veterinarian Lety had ever seen. Still, it was Spike that drew her gaze. The small dog wore a blue bandana and gnawed at a twisted piece of rope. Our shelter is full of dogs and cats that were surrendered by their families, Dr. Villalobos said. Others were picked up as strays by our rescue team. Spike was brought to the shelter for the first time by Highway Patrol. He was chasing cars. Can you believe it? Giggles and gasps erupted from the campers. But Lety was stuck on Dr. Villalobos' words, brought to the shelter for the first time. She wanted to raise her hand and ask what he meant. Had there been a second and third time? Luckily, Dr. Villalobos began to explain. Spike doesn't have a winning record with forever families, he said. He knows how to high-five, shake hands, and roll over, and thanks to one of our volunteers, he's finally mastered how to sit and stay. But every time he's adopted, he's brought back to the shelter. Everyone says he's too wild. Spike let out a playful bark, as if saying, "That's right." Lety shook her head in disbelief. Too wild? She'd only just met Spike, but to her, Spike seemed like the perfect dog. He was super cute with his glossy black and white coat, pearly white teeth, and warm brown eyes. He was smart, too, and barked every time Dr. V mentioned him. What kind of people would give him up? The good news is that Spike is going home with a foster family today. One of the kids started to clap, and soon all the kids joined in, but Lety hesitated. In just the few minutes she'd been at the shelter, she had already fallen in love and wanted Spike for herself. She didn't want to clap for him leaving. Lety nudged her best friend, Kennedy McHugh, who was sitting next to her. "What is a foster family?" Lety whispered. "Can someone still adopt Spike?" "Let me ask," Kennedy said, raising her hand. Lety smiled, relieved that Kennedy was always willing to speak up for her when she wasn't sure the correct way to ask something, or didn't want to sound stupid in front of other kids. Dr. Villalobos called on her right away. "Will Spike still be available for adoption?" "Yes, but I'm putting him on hold for now," he answered. "Sometime with a foster family is the best thing for Spike. He's become super popular after being on the news this past weekend, and now the whole city wants to adopt him," Dr. Villalobos continued. "Does anyone know what he did?" "I think I saw it on the news," one of the campers shouted. Lety hadn't seen anything on the news. At home, her parents watched only a Spanish news station, and it covered everything going on in Mexico and Central America, but nothing about Kansas City. "If you saw it on TV, then you know that Spike is a star now," Dr. Villalobos continued. Lety leaned forward as Dr. V explained that last Friday, one of the shelter volunteers took Spike for a walk to improve Spike's leash walking. "Taking a leisurely stroll on a leash is a serious accomplishment for Spike," Dr. Villalobos said. "Spike has only 2 speeds, Roadrunner and Rocket Blaster." All of the kids chuckled, except Lety. Again, she nudged Kennedy. "What is a rocket blaster?" "He means a spaceship sort of thing," Kennedy answered. Rocket blaster. Lety repeated the words to herself. She imagined Spike in a spacesuit blasting off into the sky over the clouds, wagging his tail as he zoomed into space. She laughed. Spike was strolling along on his leash when, without warning, he pulled free from the volunteer, Dr. V said. With the leash dangling behind him like an extra tail, he darted off toward a parking lot. When the volunteer finally caught up to him, she found Spike scratching and whining at a car. This was strange behavior, even for him. So the volunteer looked inside the car and quickly saw why Spike was upset. Dr. V paused. All the kids wriggled with anticipation. Lety bit down on her lower lip, wondering what was inside the car. A fresh pile of dog bones? A long-lost dog sibling whose scent Spike had never forgotten? In the back seat, with all the windows closed, was a crying baby girl. This was Friday afternoon. Do you remember how hot it was on Friday? Lety gasped. Since school had let out 2 weeks ago, she and Kennedy had spent almost every day at Kennedy's neighborhood pool. It was so hot last Friday that Lety's watermelon popsicle melted into a pink, sticky puddle before she had a chance to have a taste. While they swam, the radio DJ kept warning everyone that they were under an orange ozone alert and to drink lots of water. "I'd like to leave her parents in a hot car," grumbled Hunter Farmer from under a baseball cap. Lety knew Hunter from school. He had also been a 5th grader last year at El Camino Charter Elementary, but he was in Mrs. Morgan's class and not Mrs. Camacho's. Mrs. Camacho had all the English language learners like Lety, as well as other students like Kennedy. She called the English language learners her ELLs, which made Lety think of slimy sea creatures. She didn't want to be an ELL. She wanted to be just another El Camino student who could say things like, "my bad," and "cool," and have a smart dog like Spike. "Was the baby okay?" Kennedy asked. "The volunteer called 911, and the child was saved," said Dr. Villalobos. "Now everyone wants to adopt the hero dog that saved a child." Dr. V leaned down and gave Spike a big smooch on his head. The terrier turned away from his rope long enough to swipe Dr. V with 2 wild licks. Dr. V wiped his face with the sleeve of his Star Wars t-shirt. What a dog, Lety thought. "Spike will be going home to a close family friend of mine today, where he can run around, chase squirrels, growl at his own shadow, and all the other crazy things he does. And the moral of this story is what? Anyone want to take a stab at what you learned from this amazing dog?" All of the kids raised their hands, but Lety hesitated. She had to collect the words just right in her head before she spoke them. As Dr. V began calling on the other campers, she hoped no one took her answer before she could put the words together. "Do not forget your babies in the car," said Brisa Quispe with a snap of her fingers that made all the kids laugh and add their own snaps. Lety looked over at Brisa and flashed her a thumbs up for the sassy answer. Never boring, Brisa responded with a formal salute that made Lety giggle. Besides Kennedy, Brisa was also one of Lety's best friends. She'd been her best friend since they met in 4th grade when Brisa arrived from La Paz, Bolivia. Lety, who had arrived in the United States from Mexico the year before, was assigned to be Brisa's desk buddy. As her desk buddy, she helped Brisa understand assignments and how things worked in the classroom. Together, Lety and Brisa charged through English spelling words, verbs, and contractions. In no time at all, Brisa and Lety weren't just desk buddies. They were lunchroom buddies, recess buddies, sleepover buddies, and summer pool time buddies. "Good answer. Anyone else take away a lesson?" Dr. V asked. "Listen to your dog," Kennedy said. "Good. Next?" "People are stupid and dogs are smart," Hunter said. "A little harsh," Dr. Villalobos winked at Hunter, "but in this case, you're mostly right. Anyone else?" Lety raised her hand and Dr. V called on her. "Sometimes people or pets that are unwanted can still become heroes if we just give them a chance," Lety offered. Dr. Villalobos nodded and slapped his hands together. "Best answer of the day," he beamed. "Brilliant." Lety tried to suppress a smile, but holding back a smile was like trying to keep Spike from being a rocket blaster. She let the smile pour over her entire face, proud that she had taken her time to find the correct words. It was something she had been working on for the past year with Mrs. Camacho's encouragement. Then, as if Spike also understood how important speaking up was to her, she dropped the rope he'd been chewing, trotted over, and gave her a few licks on the cheek. She buried her face in his fur and gave the hero dog a hug, while Kennedy and Brisa nuzzled in to give Spike a few loving pets, too. Above all the coos and baby talk from Kennedy and Brisa, Lety heard Hunter's voice. More like dumbest answer of the day. That's the end of the first chapter. I'm going to keep reading, but I just wanted to point out that I think that must be Spike on the cover of the book, a little black and white terrier. And also, did you notice that this book is called Lety Out Loud? And in the very first chapter, we are already introduced to the idea that Lety is nervous speaking out loud, but she's trying to be brave and do it anyway. So I think that's really cool. Chapter 2 is called Sorry, Not Sorry. Lety was still thinking about what Hunter had said as she followed shelter volunteer Alma Gomez and the rest of the campers on a tour. Lety wasn't sure what she'd done or said to make him act so rude toward her. As Alma led the campers into a large room stacked with bags of dry pet food, Lety glanced at Hunter. He dragged behind everyone with his hands dug deep into his jeans pockets, and grimaced under his baseball cap at the pungent, fishy, beefy pet food smell that filled the room. Some of the kids pinched their noses to seal out the heavy stench, but Lety didn't think it was so bad. She'd smelled worse back home when she lived in Tlaquepaque, Mexico. On the street where she lived, the sewers backed up after every heavy rain, filling her street with a stink that was a mix of rotten meat and dirty, soggy rags. This smell is nothing, Lety thought to herself. As if Alma had read Lety's mind, she noticed the campers' reactions and rolled her eyes. Forget the smells. Focus on the feels, Alma said. Focus on the feels, Brisa sang. I like this chica, don't you? Lety nodded. She did like Alma. Alma had just finished 6th grade at St. Anne's. She had long, dark, curly hair pulled back from her face by a purple headband that matched her purple volunteer t-shirt. She told the campers that she had started volunteering at Furry Friends Animal Shelter with her 6th grade class this past school year. She loved it so much that she wanted to continue through the summer. Because of that, Alma knew all the staff and animals at the shelter. Lety liked how Alma talked about all the pets as if they were family, and how throughout the tour, whenever staff saw her coming, they called her name with a smile. Let's stop here and I'll introduce you to our pantry supervisor and another volunteer, Alma said. She waved at 2 men hauling large bags of dog food. The 2 men smiled wide when they saw Alma and quickly put the bags down. When they approached, they each gave Alma a fist bump. These are our summer heroes for the next 4 weeks, Alma explained to the men. They represent 4 different schools, including my school, St. Anne's. Alma put an arm around a girl named Lily, who Lety had met when she arrived that morning. The girl flashed a peace sign at them. They'll be here for 2 hours, 4 days a week, learning about animals, doing crafts, and helping us with some special projects that Dr. Villalobos put together. Special projects? One of the men said. He arched his eyebrows. Any of them involve helping us here in the pantry? We could use extra help with the pet food bags. We may have a few brave ones who won't be offended by the lovely aroma of beef kibble, Alma said. I'll send them your way. The last stop of the tour was the Bow Wow Zone, where Alma explained they kept the large dogs. All of the kids clapped and howled in excitement to see the dogs, but Lety noticed that Hunter's face remained soured. What's Hunter's problem? He doesn't like dogs? Lety whispered to Brisa and Kennedy, gesturing toward Hunter. I think that's just his face, Kennedy said. It always looks like that. He has the face of a llama right before it is about to spit, Brisa said. Be careful. Kennedy laughed out loud like it was the funniest thing she had heard. But Lety couldn't stop worrying about what she'd ever done to Hunter to deserve his mean comment. The whole time she'd been at El Camino Charter, they'd never even talked. They didn't hang out with the same group of friends. Lety's friends mostly consisted of other English language learners like Aziza from Uzbekistan, Ghazi from Albania, Mira from Puerto Rico, Santiago from El Salvador, and Brisa. The kids hardly ever mixed with the other students. It was something that secretly bothered Lety. No matter how much they improved in English, their other classmates still treated them like they were from another planet. They were never invited to birthday parties. They didn't share their lunch table. When they had to play team sports, the ELLs got selected last, unless it was soccer. If it was soccer, Santiago, Brisa, and Ghazi were always selected in the top 5. That's why one day when Irish-American Dance Club president Kennedy McHugh stopped Lety in the hallway and asked her about cascarones, Lety stood shocked and didn't answer right away. Do you know how to make cascarones? Kennedy asked again. Lety gave her a blank stare. Kennedy took Lety's silence as a sign that she wasn't pronouncing the word correctly. Hold on, give me 1 sec. It's in this book. Kennedy opened up a paperback book and flipped through a few pages. The girl in this book makes cascarones for Easter. It sounds really fun. They bust them on people's heads. She giggled and stopped on a page. See, this word here, She pointed out the italicized word cascarones to Lety. I know how to make them, Lety said. Can you teach me? I want to bust them on people's heads. What people? Lety asked. Mostly boys, especially my big brothers. From that point on, Kennedy and Lety were bona fide best friends. It was Kennedy who had convinced both Lety and Brisa to sign up for the animal shelter camp. It was only open to students who had completed 5th grade. This summer, she said, would be their only chance. Lety had spent every summer since arriving in the United States in summer school improving her English, but Kennedy had begged her to try something different. Lety, eager to break away from being called an ELL, jumped at the chance. Brisa was unconvinced that walking dogs and feeding kittens would improve her English, but she wanted to be wherever Lety went, so she signed up too. Inside the Bow Wow zone, Alma led the campers past several cages filled with a mix of German Shepherds, Labradors, American Pit Bulls, and Hounds, as well as other mixed breeds that Lety didn't recognize. Alma stopped in front of the cage where a brown and black Labrador/Shepherd named Finn rested. As they gathered around Finn's cage, the dog shot up from his bed and started barking. Who's wearing a hat? Alma asked, scanning the group of campers. Everyone looked around, confused. What was the big deal with wearing a hat? Lety pointed to Hunter. Hey, you in the hat, come up front, Alma said. Hunter moved up to where Alma stood. What's your name? Hunter Farmer, he asked. A few of the kids chuckled. Alma's eyebrows raised in surprise. So which is it? Are you a hunter or a farmer? More kids laughed. Hunter shifted uncomfortably. Lety couldn't help but laugh out loud, and Hunter gave her a quick side glare. Brisa nudged her. Cuidado, the llama is going to spit, she whispered. Neither, Hunter answered, shrugging. Alma winked at him. I'm dying to know your middle name, she said. It's Aaron. Okay, Hunter Aaron Farmer, said Alma with a satisfied grin. Do you want Finn to stop barking? I guess, Hunter shrugged again. Then do me a favor. Please take off your hat. Alma said. Hunter stepped back, unsure. Trust me, you'll see what happens. Hunter reached for his baseball cap and pulled it off. As soon as the hat was off his head of brownish blonde hair, Finn stopped barking and trudged back to his bed. All the kids gasped. Hunter gave Alma an "Are you for real?" look. Okay, put your hat back on, Alma instructed. Hunter did as she asked. Finn immediately jumped up and started barking again. He really hates hats, Brisa squealed over Finn's barking. All the kids laughed and excitedly yelled at Hunter to take it off again. Hunter did, and then kept it folded in his hands. Once Finn quieted and went back to his blue blanket, Alma continued. This is Finn. He was surrendered by his family because they had some sort of medical emergency and could no longer take care of him. He's 5 years old, almost 60 pounds, and he goes berserk when people wear hats around him. Why hats? Hunter asked. No idea. Dr. Villalobos talked to his former family and they didn't know. It just started once he arrived here, Alma explained. But check it out. The reason I'm bringing you to meet the big dogs is because, as you can see, we are jam-packed. As part of the summer camp, you'll be learning about what to do, but also helping us with different projects to help all of our furry friends. I've written up all of the projects in the multi-purpose room, which will be our home base for the summer camp. Follow me. Inside the multi-purpose room, a group of volunteers stood around in front of large sheets of white paper taped to the walls. The volunteers all wore the same purple volunteer t-shirt as Alma. As they introduced themselves, some explained that they were retired grandparents, while others were college students home for the summer. One at a time, each volunteer explained the different projects and tried to convince the campers to pick their project by saying what was so much fun about it. Lety scanned each project. Cat hero and dog hero, social media hero, food pantry hero, and shelter scribe. Kennedy and Brisa were excited to serve as cat heroes. but Lety remained unsure until Alma described the role of the shelter scribe. "We need someone to write 10 animal profiles," Alma said. "These profiles provide visitors a glimpse into the animal's life. Where they come from, their favorite activities, stuff like that. We really need someone who likes to write because our shelter scribe, my best friend, Gabby, is gone for the summer." Is she the one who wrote those profiles?" Kennedy asked, pointing to the bulletin board where 3 profiles were pinned up. The profiles were for Coco, a brown and white cat surrendered to the shelter by her family, Milagro, a black kitten dumped into the wild with his siblings, and Kiwi, a light gray kitten. "Yes, she wrote all of those as part of our school community project this past school year. So while she's away, we need at least one person to take this over." "Do it," Brisa whispered into Lety's ear. "You do it," Lety said, handing Brisa a red marker. "No way, you write English better than me," Brisa said, nodding and shoving the red marker back at Lety. Lety took the marker, knowing that what Brisa said was true. Lety was a better writer in English than Brisa because she'd had more years with ELL classes, but Brisa could write really well in Spanish. When Brisa wrote emails to her family back home in Bolivia, Lety envied Brisa's Spanish writing skills. Before coming to the USA, Brisa attended a private Jesuit school in Bolivia. She learned to write in Spanish and studied Spanish poems and short stories. Lety had left Mexico when she was in 3rd grade. Now her Spanish writing was stuck at that level. She envied Brisa's ability to write in Spanish and spell everything correctly. "Please take a marker and write your name under the project that interests you, and we'll break you up into those groups," Alma said. "Whatever you choose will be your project for the next 4 weeks. Please only sign up for one project. If you have questions, ask any of us." Lety hesitated, holding the red marker in her hand. Writing in English was way better than speaking it. With writing, Lety could take her time, think out the vocabulary, and look up words in a dictionary or online. She could cross things out and revise. With speaking, there was no deleting and revising. What came out of your mouth came out. If the other students laughed at your pronunciation or word choice, there was nothing you could do to shove the words back into your mouth. Kennedy signed her and Brisa's names to the cat hero list. "Be a cat hero with us," Kennedy said. "We get to make cat toys and other crafts." Alma walked up to Lety. "Are you thinking of being our shelter scribe?" "I don't know," Lety shrugged. "How many profiles do I write?" "As many as you can in the next 4 weeks," Alma answered. "The best part is you'll get to work with Dr. V. He'll review all the profiles, so don't worry about misspellings. He'll catch them. Then he'll pass them on to the social media team to post online." "English isn't my first language," Lety said quietly to Alma. "Then you should definitely do it. It's a great way to practice." "Do it," Brisa exclaimed, clutching Lety's arm. "You are ready for the big time." Lety gripped her marker tight. At school, Mrs. Camacho helped her with all of her writing assignments. She'd always pulled a chair next to Lety's desk and checked her writing on the spot. But Mrs. Camacho wasn't here. She was across town leading summer school. Right now, Aziza, Ghazi, Marta, and Santiago were probably playing Word Splash or Hangman to practice vocabulary. Lety loved playing Hangman. With marker in hand, Lety stepped toward the paper that said Shelter Scribe. Mrs. Camacho wasn't going to be with her everywhere. At some point, she had to be like Rocket Blaster Spike and take off to be a hero. Lety uncapped the marker and was about to write her name on the paper when Hunter slipped ahead of her. With a green marker, he wrote his name first. "Hey," Lety protested. "I was about to sign my name." "Looks like you missed the boat," Hunter said with a shrug. "I'm shelter scribe now. Sorry, not sorry." That's the end of chapter 2. I think that's a good place to stop for today for our first installment of Lety Out Loud. We'll start with chapter 3 tomorrow, and it's called Big Shoes to Fill. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested to know what's going on with Hunter and why his attitude is the way it is. I think Lety's interested to know that too. All right, if anybody's around or you have any younger siblings who are looking for a story time, I will be live again at 3:30 today doing a story time for kindergarten through second grade, but all ages are welcome to come. And I'm going to be reading this book, Octopus Stew by Eric Velasquez. And this is on the list for the Latino Books Month Award for kindergarten through second grade. All right, have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.